So I wanted to kind of just come back and, do a little bit of a post game on the conversation that we just had, because it was great learning a lot about the true side of voodoo from Sen Moise and from Crystal. And this is something that, we've not really explored a lot on the show.
Right.
And I think that we should look into it more and discuss it more, because that can be an avenue for people to learn more about it. But I also think too that, we're never going to be able to shake a lot of these preconceived notions that people have about it.
Right.
We're never going to be able to get rid of that stigma that has been built up over hundreds of years. And I didn't want to get too bogged down in a lot of the religion conversation while we were learning. I didn't want to kind of veer off into tangents, but that is the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons I think why voodoo has this negative connotation, is because it was something that was, it was demonized by Christianity. They were trying to keep people from turning to it. They were trying to keep people from practicing it. They were trying to make it look like, oh no, that's not. And there's a pattern to this. There's a pattern to this through history. So when you have religions like voodoo, when you have religions like paganism, when you have these belief systems that are all inclusive and would eliminate the need for any kind of hierarchy and for any kind of mass control, I think that you've seen that get quashed by these bigger religions, and especially, Christianity, because of its power and its reach. So they were always looking to squash these other religions from being able, and co-opting them too. I mean, as we've discussed here in the past, both off the air and on the air, that a lot of the religions that a lot of the holidays that people celebrate have been co-opted pagan religions that are just like, now they're suddenly, there's a reason why we celebrate Jesus' birth on December 25th when he probably was born in March?
I forget, but I think it's March.
And then, Easter didn't happen, the resurrection didn't necessarily happen in the spring.
Right.
But it was convenient to take over the pagan spring rituals.
Solstice and equinoxes. And
so there's, a lot of that's happened through history. And I think that, because there wasn't a lot that they could co-opt from voodoo,
right,
that they just kind of gave it that darker side to it to make it look like something people would be afraid of. So I think that's part of the problem here, is that plays into whatever is going on here locally, whether it be just some twisted people that just happen to latch on to that as their rationale to explain this behavior, or, as we were saying before, is there something going on here? Is there some kind of a connection here? Is somebody influencing them? Because if we go back, John, you had mentioned the stuff in Freetown, and if we go back, I was talking to Alan Alves about this week, and trying to pick his brain, and I won't get into too much of what he told me because I didn't ask him if it was on the record, but basically he just said to me, like, there's stuff going on all the time.
Yep.
And there's groups and sects and belief systems that, aren't always on the right side of things, that aren't always on the good side of things. And so if that's happening, is it possible that this is, I won't say voodoo, because obviously they're going against everything that is actual voodoo teachings, but is there some kind of a cult operating that's masking itself with voodoo, or playing on people's negative associations and connotations based on the Hollywood version or the way that other churches have presented voodoo? Are they using that to their advantage to make this into something?
Right. Which
we see that happen all the time with satanic cults. They don't necessarily believe in Satan. They don't necessarily believe in, and again, true Satanism is certainly different than the people who are often associated with being Satanists, satanic cults. But, they're just looking to be the opposite of what everybody else is doing. They're looking to be for them, it's more about not doing what everybody else is than it is about having a firm belief set. And I wonder if this isn't the same thing. Right. If this isn't like we're going to do some bad stuff, and this is going to be a convenient scapegoat for it. So we're going to be this voodoo cult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Alan's told me plenty of times, and I didn't believe it till I went and saw it with my own eyes. He says you go on these, and he showed me there is an actual Santeria cult calendar, and he showed me it, and I just, not him, just in general, I'm like, there's no way anybody believes this stuff anymore, anybody does this. And he told me, no, there's people still out there. And one night I went to the top of the tower, the fire tower in the forest, and he says, you watch, you look out there, you'll see it going on this date. Went down over close to where it was going on, and there was tons of cars. And I mean, I don't know what they were doing, but everything fit the profile of what he said. So I believe there still is stuff going out there. And why couldn't they be, masking themselves as, we're doing voodoo, just to make it so it doesn't look like they're doing what they're actually doing and blaming it on something else?
Or could it be that, they are operating under these other... I mean, obviously the case of the murder is different. The case of these women abusing the children, because they specifically mentioned voodoo.
Right.
Yes.
But it's also possible that because there are those who are involved in this, law enforcement, district attorney's office, that they may not be familiar with all the ins and outs of what they're dealing with. You would like to think that they are knowledgeable about it, but they might not be. Mm-hmm. So they're putting these labels on it as a way to kind of categorize it. There's not enough Alan Alves to go around. Like there isn't an Alan Alves on every police force that can be an expert in this kind of thing.
Yep.
And we can tell you, we're not naming any names or anything, but more often than not, when something like this goes on, people will ask us, what does it mean?
Yes.
Or who can we refer them to?
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times, younger police officers that don't know about Alan and his reputation as being the cult cop, people who will say, hey, who can I talk to about this? And I've had to give them Alan's contact info because there's just not that level of expertise anywhere anymore. Yep. And he's, somewhat kept his finger on the pulse of what's going on, but as he said, he's even tried to not have to deal with it as much anymore because it did take up so much of his life. So,
and I'm sure seeing certain things and learning certain things, it kind of overwhelms you after a while, though, too.
You eventually get to the point where enough's enough.
Yep.
And you can't deal with it. But that's what worries me the most about this, is that now that this is in the news,
are we going to see more happening?
There's going to be more of it happening. And it's funny. The one person I didn't think to reach out to this week, and I probably should have, was Lauren Coleman, because he's the one who tracks a lot of when there's copycat things that go on. And this is something to keep an eye on, because there will definitely be copycat crimes from this. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see more people murdered, and let's hope that we don't, but there's going to be people that are caught doing things that are going to blame it on this.
Right, of course.
Because it's convenient. Or maybe there are some people that are going to say, I didn't realize that voodoo was a thing around here. I'm going to look into this. And as Sen Moise was saying, they're going to try and learn from the internet. Yeah. And what are they going to find? Maybe they'll find some other local people in chat rooms that are dealing with... Chat room still a thing? I don't know.
I don't know.
But they'll find
like Reddit is a thing.
They'll find some local people who are involved in this.
It's like a blog type forum website.
I'm
not that good with Reddit either.
I'm computer illiterate most of the time. I still got her running my Instagram and Twitter.
Well, you shouldn't tell other people when somebody's running it for you.
Why?
Keep up the illusion that it's you.
I don't want that.
You run your own Twitter lately.
2 posts a month, maybe.
You can tell when it's John because he goes to type one letter and hits 3.
Yes.
From his giant thumbs.
Yes.
I know.
I have the same
I get yelled at from her with voice texting.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Well, I mean, sometimes we have trouble understanding you. I can't imagine how your phone gets.
Right.
I'm just kidding. But that's the big worry here, is that it's a twofold worry, that there's going to be copycat effect from this, and also that what if there is actually something out there operating?
Yep.
And I was just going to say that. I mean, right now they don't know for sure if there is. There could be some group in the Middleborough, Fall River, wherever, Brockton, Braintree area, that's operating, giving the wrong idea of what they're supposed to be doing, and teaching these people, like he said, learning off the internet, teaching them the wrong thing. We could see even more happen.
It takes one person to reach the level of the point where they're the focus of a group of people, and just that one person has to be convincing enough, and then whatever it is that they're selling, all the followers will start buying.
You know, it's funny. You the way you just said that made me think of a show that I'm watching right now, and it's based on a real case that happened a long time ago, Waco.
Yep, I've been watching it too. I was thinking the same thing.
And that's exactly what it is. It took that one guy to make everybody believe that he was the Messiah, that he was this, to follow him. And what did they all do? They all followed him.
And I'm not enough of a biblical expert to know.
Yes.
Like, hey, I don't know. That's just David Koresh checking in. I don't know if I know enough about it to say, if the stuff that he was saying was right or wrong. But, he had people that lived with him that were biblical scholars that would know if he was, bastardizing the Bible for himself and using, the stuff written in the Bible for his own means. And they didn't call him out on it. So he must have been, and I look at something like that and I say, well, like, who's to say that he was wrong? Who's to say that if he had people believing in him and, just because they didn't follow the law doesn't mean that they were wrong in their beliefs. And the same thing can be said for some of these other cults and organizations that are out there. Just because they might do things illegally doesn't mean that they're wrong. Like we were talking about, if there are people locally practicing Santeria, and I know that there are, and I know that there's people listening right now that do, that's protected. And as long as it's not harming anybody else or getting in the way of anybody else, then they have to allow it to take place. But it's just because it got to the point where, it wasn't sanitary that we found out about it. That if they had just cleaned up after themselves or kept the chickens a little cleaner, then nobody would have ever known what they were doing. I don't know. There's nothing that I've believed in strong enough to want to dive into any of this stuff. But I do understand when people do believe how powerful that belief can be.
Of course.
And how easily it can be that, somebody can, I don't want to say fool you, because fool you implies that they are intentionally trying to, lead you down the wrong path. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of these times these, cult leaders, they fully believe what it is that they're doing. They just might not be correct about it.
Yes.
And so it's possible that could be operating. But when you have two instances where children are hurt,
right,
and in the case of two of them killed, that's a huge cause for concern.
Oh, absolutely.
And I really hope, and I'm sure that they are, but I really hope that law enforcement and the DA's office, I hope that they're looking into these connections and trying to see what's going on here before this happens to somebody else.
Right.
So
I'm sure they are.
I mean, I would think with how close the cities are, being neighboring cities, and I would think that they have to be looking at the coincidence.
And it seems like they're all of Haitian descent. So is there a cultural community connection there? Doesn't mean that there is. There are a lot of people here from Haiti that live in this area. Doesn't mean that they know each other.
Brockton is very packed with it. I mean, I own the tattoo shop up there, and I see it all the time. There is a lot of Haitian descent in Brockton.
But it doesn't mean that they know each other.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that they're, worshiping together or any of that. So I don't know. I always say this with what we talk about here. Our job is to kind of learn as much as we can and share that with the audience and leave you to kind of make your own conclusions. But I will say this. If you are listening to us and you're local, if you're in the Brockton area, the Bridgewater area, even if you're here on the South Coast, if you know anything about this, anything about whether it be those who practice voodoo or say that they do and might not be practicing it correctly or any of that, let us know. Because I would like to be able to connect with some local people and be able to talk with us again. Of course, it's great to be able to go right to Saint Moise in New Orleans and find out the actual truth, but I'd like to find out a little bit of the local impact and the local angle on this as well. So you can reach out to us at spookykrew@spookysouthcoast.com. That's the way to get a hold of us all week long. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We were talking about maybe doing some Spooky South Coast Snapchat too somewhere down the line. Apparently we still have a Spooky Triangle Facebook filter because Gazelle found it the other night from when we did the Spooky Triangle. He was like going through because he loves to do stuff with Facebook filters, and he found the Spooky Triangle one. So it was like, whoa. So we'll play around with some more of that stuff as well. We like to have fun.
Stephanie can run the Snapchat.
I hate Snapchat.
Yeah, I've sent her things on Snapchat that she's never opened.
I probably haven't even opened it.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not personal.
I just figured I'd give you more to do.
I like Snapchat because if people want to see anything that I'm doing, like visually, I like Snapchat because I use the filters because then you don't have to look at my face. So.
Do you remember when I tried to get you to take pictures with me with filters and you're like, that's stupid. I'm not doing that.
It is stupid. It's totally stupid, but it's better than looking at my face.
I'm just not going to put on...
I tried.
Reindeer horns or...
No, I don't do any of those.
Bunny ears with a bunny nose.
Why not?
And no.
I don't do any of that crap. No, I'm not looking to be a dog or...
Oh, okay.
No, but like, you know, like they have ones like promoting certain things, like when a movie's coming out or something, like you can make yourself Star Wars.
Like a Star Wars or
Yeah, like
something.
I'll do that kind of stuff. Or there was one where like they had you skiing. Like that's kind of funny. Like things like that I'll do. But no, I'm not going to turn myself
I could say so
into a
much.
dog.
Oh my God. It's time for bed.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up anyway, and we will be back next week with another edition of Spooky South Coast. Until then, for John, for Stephanie, for Matt, for everybody else, I'm Tim. We want you all to stay spooktacular. We now join programming already in progress.